candy.
The
Yeah,
worst
there's all
part
chocolate
of the
icing.
Easter poll are family photos. Guys,
Facts.
aren't you guys
Straight
glad you
facts.
didn't have to take that today?
Facts.
You don't have to take it today. Maybe you don't.
I know, but it's still the
Yeah.
worst.
It's still the worst.
Preach,
All right.
Jack.
I did mine last one wrong.
All right, everyone. So I'm gonna stop sharing that. But so I'm gonna mute you all really fast.
Ah.
Don't worry, you'll be unmuted
Ha,
later.
he, ha, he, ha, ho, 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 ha.
All right, everyone. So hopefully you guys got to watch me and service with your family. If you did not, no worries. We're gonna go through a little bit of the Easter story today. It'll be a short little devotion. But if you guys can, you can reply in the chat. Just make sure if you're talking to the chat, make sure it pertains to what's going on. Just make sure we're keeping it clean and nothing too crazy. But you guys are more than welcome to respond in the chat because I want to hear from you guys. But something I was thinking about is like Easter is one of the weirdest holidays. And not just because we're going through like a crazy epidemic right now, but because Easter is just weird in general. I don't know if you guys have thought about it, but like the official mascot of Easter is for some reason a bunny. And I hope you guys don't do this anymore. I hope kids don't do this anymore. It's like seeing a grown man in a bunny costume. That's just weird. That's just wrong. And then also like, it's one of the very few holidays that like maybe you or maybe your family members that are not even Christians that go to church and everyone just gets dressed up and like people like wear fancy clothes and it's just like a weird time and you take photos. But I know some of you guys said Easter egg hunts are the worst part of Easter. That is actually the best part because everyone loves getting candy in Easter egg and finding it. So no matter how young you are, how old you are, Easter egg hunts are the best. But I think it's just in general, like Easter is just a weird holiday, right? We celebrate a guy dying on a cross. Like that's just a weird thing to people. And as many of you guys know, like this is even weirder celebrating Easter. Like, yeah, I'm at the church right now, but no one's literally here. And you guys are in your home in your pajamas and you're laying in bed and like, it's just weird that Easter is supposed to be this time of like spring and flowers and happiness and eggs and family photos and like none of that is happening this year. And it kind of feels like we're having to fake being happy about Easter, right? It feels like it's supposed to be this time where like spring break's happening and all these trips and all that's been canceled because of this crazy epidemic. And so I know for me, like, and just talking to some of your parents and talking to our leaders and some of you guys, like even hearing from you, it's like, this has been like super disappointing. Like not only Easter today has been disappointing, but even just this epidemic has brought so many disappointments. Like we can't even hang out with our friends anymore in person. Yeah, we can talk on Zoom right here, but we can't hang out in 2020 anymore. For the time being, we can't even go out to restaurants and go eat or get boba with our friends. Like we're all stuck in our homes, like forced to look in a video screen. And then also like some of your families and maybe even family members that like distant relatives are like afraid for their health or maybe having health issues because of this virus, or maybe you or your family or someone you know is like having a hard time with money and worried about their jobs and like worried about the future and school and graduation. And it feels like all this time of Easter and this epidemic is just, this crisis has just brought disappointment. And it's really hard to feel thankful or happy while this is all going on. And I know we're not alone in this. Like, I know we're all kind of feeling this in big ways and in small ways. We all feel disappointed. And yeah, I feel like all of us can say we're pretty sad about this, like you guys are saying in the comments right now, I can see. But I think something that, even though we're all dealing with disappointment at the same time, 2,000 years ago, on this holiday that Easter is based off of, there's actually a crazy crisis that happened as well. And so we're not alone in feeling disappointed during crisis. And so if you guys are close to a Bible, I'd love for you guys to grab a Bible. But if not, I'll show some of the verses on the screen. But if you could grab your Bible, and we'll be in Luke 24. So if you've got a Bible near you or a phone near you, if you're using your phone, you might not be able to do it. But we're going to be in Luke 24, verse 19. And so kind of what the story is about today is, as you guys know, Easter Sunday is about Jesus dying and dying this brutal death on a cross and just being falsely accused of things and basically dying because he did nothing wrong. And we see through the story of Jesus dying that his family and his friends, during this crisis of losing a family member, they're sad, they're confused, they're angry, they're upset, and they're disappointed. And 3 days go by after Jesus dies, after this crazy grief process that they're going through. And 3 days later, they hear this troubling news that Jesus' body is gone. You know, they had buried him, and now his tomb is empty. And not only that, some people are claiming like Jesus is alive, and his family and his followers, his friends are super confused. They're like, I don't know what to believe. Like, are people playing a prank? Is this something that, you know, that people are messing with us with? And two of Jesus' disciples, we're not told what their names are, but specifically they say, I'm done with this Jesus thing. I can't handle being disappointed anymore with Jesus. Like, I'm out. And so they leave town. They leave town and they go walking on a road because they're devastated. They just lost their friend, and now they're hearing rumors about things getting worse, or Jesus being gone or alive, and they don't know what to believe. And then as they're walking on this road together, these two disciples of Jesus, these two friends of Jesus, they meet someone on the road. And do any of you guys know who the person on the road they meet is? It's Jesus, right? It's Jesus, who they literally just saw die 3 days ago, and now he's walking on the road with them. But for some reason, they don't recognize him, and we don't know why. But Luke 24, I got you, David. And so for some reason, they don't recognize Jesus as he walks with them, and he asks them, "What are you guys so sad about? What are you guys talking about?" And so this is what it says in Luke 24. It says this in Luke 24. All right, let me share this with you guys, and then we will be able to see it. And so Luke 24 says this. These things happened to Jesus, the man from Nazareth, they said. He was a prophet who did powerful miracles, and he was mighty teacher in the eyes of God and all the people. But our leading priests and other religious leaders handed him over to be condemned to death, and they crucified him. We hoped he was the Messiah who had come to rescue Israel. And something that they talk about in this verse is that, man, they're disappointed. They're super disappointed in Jesus. And I think for you guys, maybe you're disappointed in this year because you feel like you didn't get to finish your 8th grade year. You feel like, man, my 6th grade year was supposed to be an amazing time of being in middle school, and now it's cut short. And so the same way you're feeling disappointed right now or feeling upset about the way things are, so were the disciples. And they're saying, man, Jesus was supposed to change things. He was supposed to make things better, but things are actually worse than they were before. And I love this idea that Jesus is present with us during our disappointments. And Jesus just listens to them in that moment. He hears them talk about how they're disappointed. And so remembering that Jesus is present with us in our disappointments. And then we jump down to verse 26. And we see Jesus' response to their disappointments. So verse 26, it says this. It says, Jesus responds, wasn't it clearly predicted that the Messiah would suffer all these things before entering his glory? Then Jesus took them through the writing of Moses and all the prophets, basically the whole Old Testament. Jesus talks about the whole Old Testament with them. And Jesus took them through all those things and explained the scriptures, the things concerning himself. See, Jesus not only was present with them in their disappointments, but he also listened to them. And he tells them, guys, like, things are bad right now. And I know you just went through something incredibly difficult, losing a friend or losing a loved one or going through financial struggles. I know, Jesus says, I know what things you're disappointed in right now. And, often we think Jesus is going to do like the reverse Thanos snap, right? He's just going to make things magically better. And that's what the disciples thought Jesus was going to do. And during this Easter time, it's easy to think, Jesus, why aren't things better? Why isn't this virus getting better? Why aren't like my needs being met during this time? But what Jesus says is, guys, didn't you know that he had to go through all those things, that Jesus had to die for the sins of the world? It was that through death, Jesus was able to experience the pain that we go through and say that he defeated it. And so Jesus goes through all the prophecies and all of the stories in the Old Testament and saying, this was God's plan all along, that God would send his one and only son, Jesus, into the world to save it. Not from magically snapping his fingers like a reverse Thanos, but by dying for the sins of the world, through going through pain, by going through disappointment, just like we do. And we see that Jesus is more powerful than any virus, than any sin, than any death. And he proved that by rising again. And I love what happens next in the story. Because if you jump down to verse 33, they end up having a meal together after Jesus talks to them for hours and is just very patient with them in their disappointments. Jesus talks to them for hours, and then all of a sudden they have a meal with him. They're eating, and they magically recognize it's Jesus, and then he disappears. Like he just ghosts them, literally, when they finally recognize him. And I think what we realize in that moment is, like, as soon as they are able to work through their disappointments, they saw Jesus. They were able to see that he was right in front of them and with them after they talked about their disappointments. And God provides for us in our disappointments. And so for you guys, what I want you to do this week is I want you to take a piece of paper. I don't know if I have a blank one near me, but you could use this. But I want you to get a blank piece of paper. And what I want you to do is kind of draw a line in the middle. On one side, I want you to write gratitude. And the other side, I want you to write disappointments. So left side, gratitude, right side, disappointments. And I want you to write down, what are some things, I know it's backwards, what are some things though you're grateful for? And what are some things that you've been honestly super disappointed about during this crisis? And here are a couple of things that I wrote that have been helpful for me as I've been thinking about this virus and everything that's been going on. Here's what I wrote. Some things I've been super grateful for is my wife, Amber, and like just how supportive she's been and just how she's been patient with me. And it could be big or small. It could be like literally, I'm thankful for my guinea pigs. I know they're dumb animals, but they give me company. I've been able to play guitar. Being at the food pantry yesterday and seeing 600 families, guys, 600 families in need getting food that they would not have the money to buy. That was amazing. And that was something I was so grateful for seeing yesterday. 600 families getting food provided for them. And honestly, thinking about Jesus this Easter, just remembering what he did for us, that he didn't just make things better magically, but Jesus died, that he felt some of the same things that we are feeling today, and he is going to make things right. And that may not be today or tomorrow, but Jesus is coming back soon, and he is going to make this world better because he defeated sin and death. And some of the things I've been disappointed about, maybe you guys feel this, is like canceled vacations, like postponed graduations, and not being able to go out to eat. Or I even think about something majorly for me is Amber's dad was recently diagnosed with cancer. And that was a huge blow to us. But here's the thing. Jesus can handle our disappointments. When we bring our disappointments to him, Jesus is present with us. He is patient with us, and he provides for us. So I want you guys to possibly do that in your small groups if you have time. So write down, to start this list. It could be big or small. It could be simple. But start that list and keep on adding to it. Maybe even do it with your family, or keep in your room, or you're writing on chalkboard or your mirror. What are the things that you can be grateful for during this Easter time, during this virus even? What are the things that have been super hard and disappointing? So we're going to jump into our small groups, but I hope you guys talk through some of those questions. I hope you guys just hang out and be together. You guys have a lot of time, and so we miss you guys. Make sure you join us on Tuesday for the same thing, 2025. It's Carlo. Carlo, you're super late, man, but you made it, Carlo. But I'll see you guys on Tuesday. We'll be here on Instagram Live on 6:30. Yeah, 6:30, and then we'll be back here on Zoom at 6:45 on Tuesday. So be sure to be back then. But we love you guys. Let me pray for us, and then I'll break you guys up into your small groups. Assume the prayer position. Jesus, thank you that you are present with us, that you are patient with us, and you provide for us in our disappointments. And Jesus, I don't know what these students are going through right now. Only you do. Some of them are bored. Some of them are really scared or anxious or frustrated or disappointed. And Jesus, thank you that your disciples felt that same disappointment, even with you. But Jesus, thank you that you don't leave us in disappointment, that you show us that it was by your death and by defeating sin and defeating things like this virus that you are bringing life. And Jesus, that happens over time, and we may be waiting for a while, but Jesus, thank you that you are here and you're real. And even though this Easter feels really weird and strange and disappointing, Jesus, thank you that your truth is the same, that you are faithful and that you are good and that you died and rose again and that you went through death to defeat it. Your name? Amen. All right, guys, I'm going to unmute you all, and then we will send you guys off into your small groups. Take a while, because usually I set this up beforehand, but now I got to set it up. All right, guys.
What? Like you're social distancing.
Breakout rooms. All right, guys. This is going to take a while, but we're going to do it. Who's making that?
Someone's having a
Room. All right.
Yo, Charles Homer is on the Omega line.
Yo.
What a
Talking
snake.
with Noah.
What? He left us and now he's coming back.
Teasing us. How dare he?
I know.
What a guy.
What a guy. You guys with your names. You guys with your names in your
With
background.
coronavirus.
Jack.
What the?
Guys, I spelled disappointments wrong.
What
What a disappointment.
a disappointment.
I'm dumb.
Dang.
I'm just.
What if there was a spelling test for med school?
Oh my
Oh
god.
god.
Oh no.
Isn't
the
it
easiest
classically held that doctors have really terrible handwriting? So
What
talking about? My handwriting's great.
Yeah,
because you're not a doctor yet.
You should be the
Can't be the med
revolutionary
school.
change,
Hannah.
Be like, we
it's
can't
once
have good
you-
handwriting.
Hannah,
It
it's
can
once you
happen.
get it.
Be the
Hannah
change
gets
that
better.
you want to be in the world. Bye.
Exactly.
All right. Bye, guys. As I'm sending you off. Oh, I gotta admit this person. All right. We're getting there, guys. Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely.
Get me out of here.
Get me out of here.
Please. Hi, friend. Is it bad that my disappointment list is longer than my gratitude list?
No, you're just being real. You're being honest.
It sounds like a very human thing to do.
Yeah.
I can't find a pen that works. Why?
Because you
Yo,
just
John,
don't
slick
need to
the
write
tip of the
anything
pen.
down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ah.
Matthew, I'm guessing that's 7th grade Matthew.
Bella there too.
I don't know.
Oh, there's Bella. Hello.
I'll look if I can find him.
What's your one gratitude?
I don't
All